Welcome to Using Insert Part 2. We're going to continue right where we dropped off at the end of Part 1. And if you remember, we used an insert select. We used the result of a select statement to insert rows into this table that we created called employee sales. And just as we finished Part 1, we executed this and we saw that 17 rows were affected. So here's what we're going to do now. Let's go look at our employee sales table. So I'll just do a select asterisk from employee sales, and it can see it there. So we'll just take it and cheat right there. And I'll execute this, and you'll notice I got 17 rows right down here on the right, and there it is. Now notice, I want you to notice something here. See how we did this select, and we pushed a literal in there? This data source column we're using, if we were loading a data warehouse or whatever, we can see how this data got in here. This got in here as a result of a select statement. So there's a little hint at some of the things you can do with SQL. But we just did a relatively simple join statement on a select clause and put every bit of that into the employee sales table. So you can use insert into. The only thing you have to remember is insert into requires the table to already be there. And you will have to match this select statement and these columns right here really kind of match the values portion of the insert statement. If you saw in Part 1 where we did the simple ones where you did the column names and then the values you want to put in as literals, this select statement really is the part that comes after values there. Hope that made sense. So now let's just clear all this off. And let's clear off our result set because now I want to show you how to insert based on using a stored procedure. Now first what I want to do is show you how you would go about doing that. So now this is what the command would look like. We would insert into employee sales, but we would execute this stored procedure. Now you're saying, well, wait a minute, I don't have that stored procedure. Well, let me do something here right quick. Let's delete everything from employee sales table. Okay, so I just deleted all the rows. That's the scary part of the delete command. And let's talk about creating this stored procedure. Now, we haven't gotten to stored procedures yet in the course. So what I'm going to do is just paste the creation of this stored procedure. And we will come to this a little bit later on. And after you see this in the course, if you're not familiar with these, you're really going to like stored procedures. But notice we use create procedure. We gave the name USP, that's user stored procedure, get employee sales. And notice here is that same query that we ran. And all this is going to do is create basically a subroutine, if you will. And whenever we call get employee sales, it's going to run all this code. So if I highlight create procedure and execute, now there's a stored procedure out there. Now, I'm going to delete this because in your world, if you didn't have to create the stored procedure, you wouldn't even be concerned. You would just know the name of it and you would use the execute command just like you see here to call it. So I'll insert into employee sales. I'll execute the stored procedure. It will return the data and you will notice 17 rows got loaded. How cool is that? So we can use insert to just literally put values in like we did way back in the middle of beginning of Part 1. We can insert multiple rows at a time using that. We can insert based on the results of a select statement, and we can insert based on the results of stored procedures. And you're really going to get directed towards stored procedures pretty heavily, and we'll talk about those later on in the course. But as you can see, there's a lot of power in insert, and let me remind you one more time, go out there, print out the PDF document in the working files folder. For insert, look at the documentation for insert, print that out, and just go through it slowly. There's a lot of things you can do with insert. There's a lot of power here, and we could spend 3 or 4 hours just on the insert statement. So go play with it, look at it, get comfortable with it. You're not going to have to go terribly deep on the exam, but just be familiar and be able to read well enough on the syntax to know what they're doing, even if it's something you've never seen before. And most code you look at will be code you've never seen before. So anyway, that's a quick look in this 2-part video on using the insert command in T-SQL code.